Welcome to This Explainer, where we're breaking down 3 true, absolutely terrifying accounts of real-world horror. We're going to look at how completely everyday situations can just suddenly spiral out of control, escalating from the unexplained to an immediate physical threat, and finally, a relentless stalker. All right, let's dive straight into this. So, what actually happens when that bump in the night isn't just your imagination? Well, we're kicking things off with a chilling hotel experience that proves some coincidences are just way too specific and terrifying to be accidental. If you've ever traveled alone and felt that weird, creeping sense of unease in an empty hallway, this first account is going to hit very close to home. Section 1. The Rule of 3. The Unexplained Incident in Missouri. Picture this. It's the fall of 2025, and an exhausted salesman is on a grueling trip, staying on the 3rd floor of a mid-tier cabin-style hotel. He's the literal only person he's seen on that floor all day. But at 11:30 p.m., the quiet is suddenly broken by urgent voices. He steps out to get some water a bit later and sees EMTs treating an older man exactly 3 doors down from his room. By 12:18 a.m., things had deteriorated completely. He actually watches the EMTs performing aggressive CPR right there in the hallway, and you can hear that unmistakable, continuous flatline tone of a heart monitor. An EMT tells him to go back inside, so our narrator returns to his bed, restless, exhausted, and incredibly on edge.
But then the tension shifts from a tragic medical emergency to something far more sinister. At 12:50 a.m., he hears a pattern of 3 soft knocks on his door. He brushes it off, thinking, it's just the building settling. But then they happen again. 3 knocks, much louder this time. He creeps over, looks to the peephole, and sees a completely empty hallway. But as he backs away, the door handle slowly begins to depress. And then, looking down, he sees the strip of light beneath his door just vanish. A shadow was blocking it. This was immediately followed by this faint brushing sound against the wood, literally like someone dragging their fingers across the outside of the door.
Frozen with fear, he just waits in his room for an hour. Finally, he hears muttering in the hallway, so he cautiously opens his door, kind of hoping for a distraction. What he sees is a man emerging from the deceased man's room. But this wasn't an EMT or a hotel worker. It was a guy in business attire with these unusually sunken eyes, like he hadn't slept in months. The narrator asks if he had been with a man who had the medical emergency. The stranger just nods, smiles slightly, and delivers this absolutely chilling warning. He says there had been 3 knocks, and the 3rd time is when they answered. They didn't always leave immediately. And with that, he just calmly walks down to the stairwell.
The next morning, a quick chat with the front desk completely shattered any logical explanation he had left. The clerk confirmed that the room 3 doors down was totally vacant. No registered guests, no medical emergency on record, nothing. This forced our narrator to realize that his horrifying night was entirely connected to his room number, 312. The incident happened 3 doors down. The knocks came in 3s, and the mysterious man's ominous warning was all centered around the number 3. To this day, he counts the doors to the stairwell whenever he checks into a hotel, and honestly, can you blame him?
Section 2. The Uninvited X. Nowhere is safe. Our second story shifts from eerie coincidences to a terrifyingly real home invasion. The narrator is just chilling in his room, casually playing the video game SWAT 4, when his roommate, Misty, stumbles in. She drops a bombshell. Her volatile ex-boyfriend Paul, who she literally just filed a restraining order against, had sneaked over and smashed the bedroom window right next to where she sleeps in her bunk bed. And as this bizarre, twisted intimidation tactic, he threw a bag of her dirty laundry inside. Stepping up to protect his roommate, the narrator immediately calls the police and stands guard. Now, the timeline of this night really highlights the agonizing reality of relying on emergency services. The window is smashed at 11:30 p.m. By 12:15 a.m., they're still waiting in the apartment, and Misty gets a taunting text from Paul. It just says, "Wrong move, bitch," and then he demands his vape back, a vape she didn't even have. It takes 3.5 hours until 3 a.m. for the police to finally show up. This perfectly captures how utterly vulnerable victims are when they're waiting for help in the middle of the night, knowing for a fact that a threat is actively watching them.
But guys, the danger didn't end there. The narrator had this gut feeling Paul was going to come back, which was especially stressful because the narrator had to work the closing shift the next night. Sure enough, at 10:30 p.m. while he's at work, Misty leaves her room to take out the trash. When she glances back, she spots a dark figure slipping right into her bedroom. She searches the apartment, but she can't find anyone. Brushing it off as her imagination playing tricks on her, she sits in her room for a bit before deciding to open her closet to grab some cleaning supplies.
She opens the door, and staring right back at her from inside the dark closet with a completely dead expression on his face is Paul. And the only thing he says to her in this totally cold voice is, "I just want my vape back." Misty, showing just unbelievable composure here, calmly talks to him as if everything is totally normal, all while frantically texting the narrator. He rushes home from work on the bus, calling 911 on the way. By the time he actually gets there, the police already have Paul in cuffs, resulting in his immediate arrest and a trip straight to jail.
Section 3. The Persistent Shadow, the Digital Predator.
Our final, and honestly most deeply unsettling story, follows an 18-year-old university student whose casual online interaction spiraled into a multi-year nightmare. He's living away from home for the first time, right? He gets a random Instagram request from a heavily built, pale man with bright blue eyes who just stares blankly into the camera in all his photos. Thinking it's completely harmless, the narrator and his friend play a joke game of truth or dare with the stranger over messages. But the game stops being funny real quick when the stranger asks, "How are you finding life at university?" Here's the thing. The narrator had absolutely zero posts about his university. He had never shared his location. The stranger knew exactly who he was and what he was doing. Obviously, he blocks the guy immediately. But this wasn't just some passing internet troll. It was a deep, deep obsession. 2 full years go by. The narrator is now 21, living in a totally new house. Out of nowhere, the stalker finds him again on Instagram, sending this barrage of hostile, then friendly, then highly explicit messages in a completely unhinged loop. The narrator blocks him again, locks down his profile, sets it to private, but astoundingly, just 1 month later, the stalker tracks down the narrator's completely anonymous TikTok account, an account that didn't even use his real name. And this is where the terror rapidly escalates from screen names and digital tracking to a very real physical danger. One night, the narrator is walking home from a dinner in the city. The streets are pitch dark and super quiet. As he walks, he hears footsteps behind him, so he stops. The footsteps stop. He starts walking again. The footsteps continue. He turns around, and his blood just runs completely cold. Several meters back, standing completely motionless under the glow of a streetlight, is the stalker. It was the heavily built man from the photos. The exact same pale skin, the same messy brown hair, the same bright blue eyes. He had literally tracked his digital target out into the physical world. For a few agonizing seconds, they just stare at each other. Then, the stalker calmly greets him by his real name, like they're just old friends running into each other on the street. The narrator doesn't even hesitate. He turns and sprints for his life. Doesn't look back once. Luckily, he lived in a large residential complex with a hidden unit that couldn't be seen from the main path. He practically crashes into his door, fumbling with his keys in a total panic, expecting this guy to round the corner at any second. He manages to get inside and lock the door just in time. His friends run outside to confront the man, but the predator had already vanished into the night.
Section 4. Trust your instincts, the lingering fear.
Now, our narrator from that last story is currently pursuing a restraining order with screenshots and a physical description. But the psychological damage of being hunted like that across both the digital and physical world, that remains a constant, heavy burden. As you reflect on this explainer and these 3 true stories of escalation, ask yourself, what dark intentions are hidden in the shadows of a hotel room, inside a bedroom closet, or under a streetlight? And more importantly, what would you do if the footsteps stopping right behind you belonged to a monster who already knows your name? Stay safe out there and always trust your gut.